Well, and now for better understanding on this matter, we are joined from Istanbul by geopolitical analyst Borzou Daraghi. Thank you for being here with us on Asiaone. Well, Field Marshal Asim Munir just made his third Tehran trip this year, meeting Iran's top military brass directly. How significant is this visit in the broader mediation effort?
Well, I think it's important. I think it's an effort on the part of the U.S. to make a last-ditch effort to get the kind of deal that they want. More likely than not, the Pakistanis are acting as intermediaries between the Americans and the Iranians. More likely than not, there was some kind of message passed on to Iran. Look, let's make a deal. Here are the terms that we want. But Iran is not going to give the U.S. the kind of deal that the U.S. wants. Because what Trump wants more than anything is to look good and be able to claim to his supporters that he won the war. And Iran is just not going to give him that because they have their own domestic challenges, but also because it's just not reality. The reality is that the U.S. gave it its best shot, and they kind of lost. They kind of lost the war, and they're forced to make concessions in a way to Iran, and they don't want to make those concessions in order to get back to the status quo ante. And in addition, there might never be a return to the status quo ante. The Strait of Hormuz might never again be reopened, and the U.S. may never be able to get back to those bases. This is just something that the U.S. can't face, and it can't actually embrace at all.
And look, Pakistan has positioned itself as a military channel into Iran's security establishment. How effective, in your opinion, has that mediation actually been so far?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure how effective it's been. I'll let other people judge that because right now we still have this situation of no war, no peace. I think one criticism of the Pakistanis has been that they've been too eager to tell each side what they want to hear in an effort to get a deal done. And the motives for the Pakistanis are pretty noble, I guess. They want peace in the region, but they also want to bolster their own international legitimacy. So they've had this incentive to say very positive things about their meetings with the Iranians to the Americans, and very positive things to the Americans about their meetings with the Iranians. And that might have been a little bit of a disservice in the interests of coming up with the greater good.
Look, Iran is threatening closure while still letting tankers through and talking to Oman on shipping arrangements. Is the real closure likely, or is this posturing?
Well, posturing. I think that there is a chance that Iran could further escalate and further tighten its control over the Strait of Hormuz. That's not a bluff. They have to balance, though, because on the one hand, they want to put pressure on the U.S., they want to put some pressure on the global economy, but they don't want to tank the global economy, and they don't want to alienate countries like Pakistan, India, and China, as well as Indonesia and other countries that are dependent on the Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf for their energy supplies. So they have to balance their interests with that of the others. And in a way, they have to balance their own diplomatic portfolio with that of other countries.
Mr. Daraghi, with sanctions escalating, diplomacy stalled. Where is this Iran-US standoff heading in the coming weeks? What would you predict?
I think that we're going to have probably a return to some kind of fighting or action. Maybe that'll be sparked this time by the Iranians. If the pressure gets too much on the Iranians, if there is too much economic pressure on the Iranians, too much military pressure on the Iranians, if they are watching as too much oil is getting out of the Strait of Hormuz under this U.S. scheme of boat-to-boat transfers, then they might attack, and that will cause an escalation, and that will force the U.S. to respond in kind. And that could be very dangerous at this point. We also have two key elections coming up, elections in Israel, where Netanyahu is fighting for his political life, and midterm elections in the U.S. that could see a change in the balance of power in Washington and create more troubles for Donald Trump. On the other hand, the elections coming up and being over could also free Donald Trump's hands. The elections will sort itself out. Politics in Washington will sort itself out. But Donald Trump will be able to do whatever he wants without having to worry about what his Republican allies say and what their interests are.
Thank you so much for joining Asiaone. I appreciate your time and your analysis.